All right, here we are. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is May 23rd. I am officially 18 days away from my Ironman, and I wanted to take some time this week to speak about the hardest days I have coming up, particularly on my schedule, Wednesdays and Saturdays. I want to talk about what I have discovered that works best for me, what has increased my performance, my volume, output, my strength maintenance, and my overall scheduling and 6 day training week with one day off. Um, Versus last year, when I compare last year at this time to this year at this time, I'm confident that I've made significant gains in my physique, in my endurance, and my ability to train with intensity for longer durations. That's been a consequence of my effort, my overall discipline to my training, but it's also played a been a consequence of my diet, um, and my selection of carb cycling, choosing which stimulants to take and how to use them appropriately and not use them every day. Um, so the first thing before I get into like the structure of my heavy days, I'm going to talk about will just be kind of the overall weightlifting and how and kind of the muscle group scheme that I have kind of built in over the last couple of weeks after my marathon on May 7th. So following that week, I got right into weightlifting, and I tried to leave Wednesdays and Saturdays open for longer cardio sessions, swimming, biking, and running specifically. So at this point, I'm doing 2 a day Mondays, and occasionally 2 a day Tuesdays, where I virtually hit my entire body with weightlifting, except for shoulders. So Monday is kind of like a chest and legs day, where I have two separate weight workout sessions, including my lighter cardio. And then Tuesday is kind of where I do the same thing, where I have like a back, arm, weight session followed by just like a swim and a run or a swim and a bike in the afternoon. And then I hit like a longer brick workout on Wednesday with like a 90-minute bike and a 45-minute run, at least trying to get like over 2 hours of cardio in. And then I kind of go back to like a smaller muscle group on Thursday with like a shoulder workout or something. Um, and then Friday I treat kind of like a taper, like a mini taper, where it's my lightest day of the week, and I'm getting prepped up, ready for Saturday to do the longest volume in terms of Ironman training, where it might be like a 45 mile bike, 8 to 10 mile run, sometimes an 11 mile run, and then a swim too prior to that. So like probably a 3/4 mile swim or something, or at least 1,000 meters. And once I'm able to get into open water, that will be a consistent part of my week leading up to the final taper week. So what I've discovered is that when I tax my body with the weights, kind of avoiding combining both in the same workout, it's productive and convenient, meaning that I get the most out of each set of my weightlifting exercises when I haven't done a super long cardio session. Um, but I'm also applying more mileage to my weeks because I am recovering just in time. It's almost like just in time recovery, where if I have a leg workout on Monday, I'm recovered by Wednesday afternoon so that I can do a long bike. And then after I do a long bike on Wednesday with the run, I take 2 days to recover so that on Saturday I can hit the longest sessions. So you see how that works? It's like a nice setup to my weight schedule too, where my weights are kind of incremental, or every muscle group at least 15 to 18 sets, but I'm not causing too much damage to my system to where I don't optimize each training session. And I feel like I've made an improvement on that, meaning like every day is not kind of the same intensity. I kind of classify it as like 3 hard days, meaning Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, 2 mid-level, mid-volume, mid intensity days, meaning Tuesday, Thursday, and then 1 light day on Friday, and then an off day on Sunday. So another caveat to this is my weightlifting is pretty much recovered and ready for an intense, heavy Monday, because my last heavyweight session was technically it was like a Thursday. So I almost have like 3 days off of like like a, in depth, 18 set plus weight session, which is usually either chest or back. Um, and also, I would point out that my leg workouts are lighter. They're still, high reps, high intensity, but the total volume is lighter, meaning that I do 15 sets of mainly machine work and like calf work or something, or just quads and hamstrings. And I've been able to keep a pretty decent size on my legs, and the same body weight, through using this training program. And what I'm going to do is now that I'm certified as a trainer, I'm going to draw up and build out my program that I've been using. And I want to publicly present that to anyone who's interested or curious in getting involved in hybrid athlete training. And I'm going to present that as my product. So organically through the course of specifically like 2 years of definite like dedication to it, I'm gonna build this, and then I'm gonna track it, and I'm gonna basically iteratively over like every 6 month time frame, just kind of fully reflect on how it went, what I could have done better, what I could have done to improve. Um, but I think the overall incremental gains, like if you follow a lot of mainstream fitness culture, they talk about how muscle wise, like if you're just lifting weights, you can maybe put on 5 to 8 pounds of muscle if you're kind of a beginner or intermediate. And then more you get into the advanced realm of things, it's more of like 3 to 5 pounds of muscle every year would be even a great outcome, especially when you're not using steroids. So I think running is similar. I've been running for like 10 years now. So I'm not gonna train hard for a year and then and then run 5 minute miles or 5 minute and 30-second miles, like, for long distances. But, I cut a few seconds a mile off a marathon time. I'm increasing like my body weight and my strength as I'm running quicker. So like my overall growth, my trajectory is in that 5 to 8% range, I'd say, year over year. So if I can sustain that by the time I'm in my late 30s, I'll be damn near pro level. Like I'll be definitely an elite type of athlete, definitely like in my community and in my location. And I can compare myself to kind of, some of the top performers, the top level guys that are in the hybrid type of fitness style, where you're a decent sized guy, but you're not like, you can't bench press 315 pounds, you can't squat 400 pounds, but you can still throw weight around. And on the other end, you're not, you know super quick, you're not super fast, thin, running really quick marathons, but you're executing both and you're staying healthy. So one thing that I've discovered from my diet plan and from my exercise plan is my joints, I stretch 3 to 4 times a week minimum, 10 to 20-minute sessions. So one thing that I'm going to include in my program is when to stretch and how to stretch. I am of the opinion, and I learned this through college sports, the easiest muscle to stretch is a warm muscle. So static stretching implies that you are seated in a stationary position. You're not moving, and it's like you're sitting down, touch your toes, something like that, or some of those, like yoga type stretches where you're doing like a specific, back arch or back stretch or holding a position. That's static. Dynamic or ballistic is where you kind of mimic the movement of what you're going to do, or you are walking and stretching, something along those lines. I prefer that when you're cold or just warming up. So it's like a general warm up, for lack of a better term. And that's important before you work out. But if you're trying to increase flexibility in the short term, it's definitely important to stretch after exercise as well. So I'm going to include that in all of my programming and all of my kind of recommendations. Back to kind of the week and how I've the observed improvements that I've seen and that I've made within my own program. There's overall increase in volume, and my performance is increasing at the same time as my volume is. Meaning that last year, if I did a long bike and then I went to run on the treadmill, or I went to run outside, I was running like 7.5 to almost 8 minute miles. But now, I did like a 90-minute bike the other day, and then I'm able to do a 40-minute run at 7-minute miles. So I'm able to keep a marathon pace. Would I have like just around 7 minutes for a longer distance now, and I'm also increasing volume on my bike at this stage more than what it was the previous year. Last year before my Ironman, I only did two-hour bike sessions, so a 45-minute mile bike and a 44.5 mile bike, I think. That was like my peak output, and I was barely able to run like 5 miles after that. So you do the math, that's like less, that's 70% maybe, 65 to 70% of the entire distance. And then I was supposed to do the entire distance without stopping last year, which is virtually an impossible ask, even if I'm fully recovered. So you compare apples to apples, like my training for the marathon, I never ran more than 21 miles in one time frame, which is like 80 to 85% of the distance. And in this Ironman prep, I intend to do the same thing, but execute it quicker and more consistently and more frequently. Meaning, like, I'll combine a 45-mile bike with a 6 to 10 mile run, probably 3 to 4 times, and then I'll also be doing more swimming, active swimming, like in the pool and open water, leading up to the date. So I think it's important to kind of note that like my training has gone, as the training goes, thus the event, or thus the day of the competition, the day of the race goes. So it all ties into having realistic expectations, and I'm super confident that I'm going to cut a significant amount of time off of my Ironman time from last year. So headed in the right direction, and also heading in the direction of like fine tuning how I want to approach my training from here into the future. And like here, as I finish through the summer and I run like another half marathon in July, and then probably select another event in September, and then I hit October for an off season. So I'm like, 2.5 months into like my endurance season, but I still have at least 3 months left where I kind of fight the battle of not getting too thin, but also like increasing my performance with longer runs and bikes and stuff. So it's a fun game to play, and I hope that gives you a better idea of kind of how I structure my workout week, with like targeting every muscle group, but really only doing maybe chest twice or back twice. I consider like 1.5 workouts, meaning like if I have one of those longer break workouts, I might do some extra pull-ups or something, but I'm not going to do like barbell rows or anything, major for the muscle group twice. And legs is definitely just a once a week type of workout where I'm not trying to build my legs, I'm just trying to maintain. But the older I get and the more muscle maturity that I get, I realize that I don't have to be afraid of getting chicken legs if I take 6 months off of like hard leg workouts. So the nice thing is, now that I'm in my 30s, I kind of feel that reinforcement of like, hey, you've been lifting weights pretty hard for like 3-4 years now, at least 4 years. So you're kind of building that muscle maturity, where it's kind of like the metaphor where like if even a bodybuilder that retires, they shrink, but they're still like big. They're still noticeably big. Like you look at a guy like Jay Cutler, who's all over social media. Like he was Mr. Olympia back in 2010, and now 15 years later, 14 years later, he's still like bigger than most people. He's like 230, 240 pounds still, and he's in good shape just because he works out. Like he does machine work all the time. So it's kind of like at an amateur intermediate level, it's the same concept. Like once you kind of have that history of training hard and working at your goals and working at the style of athlete you want to be, then eventually the kind of the regress, like the step back, that retrace is not as dramatic as it used to be, which is great because it allows you to kind of change gears quicker and more efficiently and get into the rhythm of whatever you're trying to do quicker. My transition from barely being able to do a half marathon into running my entire full marathon was a lot quicker than it was the year before. So like my growth pattern from phase 1 to phase 3, meaning phase 1 is like just starting to slide off the heavier weights and go into like 10-15 mile runs, as opposed to phase 3, which is like multiple 15-mile plus runs a week, stuff like that. It's easier to get into that training style quicker, and it allows for more kind of durability as you move forward, meaning that if you take a week off, you're not going to lose what you've gained muscularly and, in my opinion, cardiovascular wise. And next week, I think it's good if I talk about like more of my diet, because I know like a month ago or 2 ago, I kind of went into like how much chicken I eat, what my macros are at, things along that nature. But I can go into more of like carb cycling and when I adjust food and how eating less in the morning has actually improved my energy levels as well as my gym performance. So I think that's a fascinating topic because one thing I'm working towards also in the summer is getting my body fat adapted and going for the keto diet for about a month into the month of July. So I'm going to be documenting that and kind of sharing some information on that as well. I've never done it, but I'm excited about the idea of doing it, and I'm anxious to see the effect that it has on my running and on my endurance specifically. Um, so to wrap up this conversation for this week, I think it's important to structure your workout so that you can kind of get the most out of each workout. Meaning you're not going into a leg workout with fatigued legs. You're not going into a vice versa. You're not going to a long bike session after you just did legs. You're not doing like a long swim or like a heavy brick workout when you're not fully, the majority almost fully rested. So hence my Friday, my light day going for a long Saturday. So all that plays into kind of your macro view, your mesocycle or macrocycle view of your training program. Meaning that you want to be able to grow incrementally at least every month. If you don't see it every week, that's fine. But in my opinion, if you haven't seen gains or improvements after a month, you're probably not doing something right. It can be associated with effort or like I'm pointing out here, like scheduling strategy or diet or rest or a kind of a combination of all of them. But I feel like I've covered, a fair amount of topics so far on this channel. Rest, scheduling, planning. I did an episode on kind of fitting your life around your fitness and making it an important part of your life, and that we all have enough time if it's important enough to you. I've gone into nutrition, but not deep enough, but I will. So I think that's all I have for now. Hopefully, I get more people on this channel. So whatever would make it more interesting, feel free to drop a comment. And anyone who sees this, definitely subscribe because they have some nice shorts and stuff too. Some of them are kind of comical. Some of them are just related to kind of what I like to do or what's on my mind. So until next week, hope everyone has a good week. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time, and enjoy the start to the summer.